Stadiums nowadays are state of the art. Just look at the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. A lot of clubs move grounds, so let's look at every Premier League club's old stadium and see what it is now. Arsenal Highbury. In 2006, Arsenal played their final ever game at Highbury. It was a game to remember, coming from behind to beat Wigan and pip Tottenham to a Champions League place, with club legend Thierry Henry getting a hat-trick and symbolically kissing the turf. But what is that turf now? Well, it's a garden. Since Arsenal have moved to the Emirates Stadium, Highbury has been redeveloped into flats known as Highbury Square. 2 stands were completely demolished while another 2 were preserved and incorporated into the flats, while the pitch is now a communal garden. Aston Villa, Wellington Road. Way back in 1897, Aston Villa changed stadiums. Now they play at Villa Park, but back in the 19th century they called Wellington Road their home. In front of 8,000 people, Villa beat Bolton 6-2 in their final game there, having moved to Villa Park because the crowds were getting too big and the pitch was slightly uneven. But what is Wellington Road now? Well, according to a 2005 book about old football grounds, it became housing, a car park, a pub and a park. How fun. Nowadays it just looks like terrace houses, and more than 100 years on you wouldn't even know it was a football ground. Bournemouth Kings Park. In 1910, Boscombe FC, now known as Bournemouth, was set to move into Dean Court. But with the ground not ready before the season started, the Cherries had to play over the road at Kings Park. Kings Park is still open and actually hosts Dean Court, but they also have kids play areas, bowling greens, athletics track, a cricket pitch and a calf. It sounds pretty nice to be fair. Even though I'm not a kid, I'm not old enough to play bowls, I don't like athletics and I'm crap at cricket. I do enjoy a good calf though. Brighton, the Withdean Stadium. Next we've got Brighton, who moved stadiums much more recently than the last 2 teams. Between 1999 and 2011, the Seagulls played their football at the Withdean Stadium. This was just a temporary home for Brighton, who were waiting for the Amex to be built after selling their previous ground. Brighton left the Withdean Stadium in 2011, but it remains pretty much unchanged, still operating as an athletic stadium as well as a local leisure centre with sports facilities aplenty. Burnley Caldervale. Since 1883, Burnley have been playing football at Turf Moor. Christ, that's a long time. But where did they play before that? Caldervale, of course, where they played for less than a year. I'm not being funny, trying to find out where it actually is ridiculous. There's a Caldervale sports club, but apparently that wasn't built until the 1950s, so it must have been that. Who knows? Any Burnley fans, please help us out, this is driving me mad. Chelsea, Stamford Bridge. On to Chelsea, who have never actually played anywhere else. For their entire history, Chelsea have played their home football at Stamford Bridge. Isn't that nice? Will they ever move? There's been talk of it, then there was talk of just redeveloping Stamford Bridge. Now it appears nothing's happening. Crystal Palace, The Nest. The atmosphere at Selhurst Park can be electric when the fans are up for it, but back in the old days they used to play at a place called The Nest. That was their home between 1980 and 1924, and next to it was Selhurst Station, with fans able to purchase a platform ticket which allowed them to watch the game from Platform 1. In 1924, Palace bought Selhurst Park, and nowadays The Nest is a train depot for rail company Southern. Everton, Anfield. Everton are an interesting one, as their old ground is still a Premier League stadium. The Toffees used to play football at a little known place called Anfield back in 1884, but when it was bought, the landlord continued to increase the rent, meaning Everton had to pay more and more money to play there. In 1892 they left, and a newly formed club would take up residency at Anfield. That club was Liverpool, and as we all know they're still there today, redeveloping the ground and increasing the capacity, as well as bringing years and years of success. Leicester City, Filbert Street. For more than 100 years, Leicester City played at Filbert Street. An iconic classic English ground closed its doors for the final time in 2002 as Leicester moved to what is now known as the King Power Stadium. But what happened to Filbert Street? It was bought by a development company in 2002 for just £3.75 million and later became accommodation for students at De Montfort University, with the site known as Filbert Village. There's a road that runs through Filbert Village known as Lineker Road, named after Fox's legend Gary Lineker. Liverpool, Anfield. As previously mentioned, Liverpool played Anfield, and they always have done. The club was formed in the 1890s and moved into the stadium that Everton vacated in 1892. Their first game there was a 7-1 friendly win over Rotherham in front of 200 people, and nowadays it seats 54,000 people and is sold out every week, as Jurgen Klopp's side continue to show why they're one of the best in the world. Manchester City, Main Road. Manchester City's Etihad Stadium is a thing of beauty, even the surrounding area is sublime, almost a complex of all things Manchester City. But before then they were at Main Road, a proper English football ground. But when City moved to the stadium that was built for the Commonwealth Games in Manchester, main road was demolished and 474 houses were built in its place. There's also a plaque where the centre circle used to be, in tribute to Manchester City's former groundsman, and his name Gibson's Green. Manchester United, Bank Street. Manchester United had the biggest stadium in English club football, with Old Trafford holding almost 75,000 people every other week. It was first opened in 1910, and before then the Red Devils played at Bank Street, back when they were still called Newton Heath. The playing conditions there were apparently terrible, which led to Old Trafford being built, and nowadays the Bank Street ground is a car park. But not any old car park, it's the car park for the Manchester Velodrome, which is situated right next to the Etihad Stadium. Newcastle United, St James's Park. Situated in the heart of the city, Newcastle United have played all of their football at St James's Park ever since their foundation in 1892. It's been home to Olympic football and Rugby World Cup games, as well as just being a massive Sports Direct advert during Mike Ashley's ownership. Norwich City, The Nest. Crystal Palace's old ground was known as The Nest, and so was Norwich's. The Canaries played their football there until 1935, and it was called The Nest because of Norwich's bird-themed nickname. Built on an old quarry, The Nest eventually became not fit for purpose as crowds in Norwich began to grow. Having initially been a factory and offices, The Nest is now a housing development, and there's also a sculpture there as a tribute to Norwich City's past. Sheffield United, Bramall Lane. Sheffield United are another club who've only ever played their home games at one ground, always playing at Bramall Lane since their inception in 1889, but 27 years earlier it hosted its first actual football game between Hallam and Sheffield Club, making it the oldest Major League ground anywhere in world football. Southampton, The Dell. Southampton used to play their football at the Dell, ending their stay there in 2001, and it was soon demolished. As appears to be the case with most old stadiums, a housing estate was built on the land, but there's something unique about the new apartments, as each block was named after a former Southampton hero such as Matt Le Tissier and Mick Channon. I mean, that is pretty cool, unless you're a Portsmouth fan of course. Tottenham Hotspur, White Hart Lane. Tottenham closed the doors on White Hart Lane a few years ago, temporarily moving to Wembley while their new stadium was being built. But what happened to White Hart Lane? Just what's in its place now? Is it housing? I bet it's housing. Nope, it's the new Tottenham Stadium. Spurs merely just built over where the old ground used to be, a bit like knocking down your own house, then building a new super house in its place that takes years to build, and in the meantime you go and live with that auntie and uncle you don't really like. Watford, Cassio Road. Vicarage Road has been Watford's home for a long time now, but they also spent 32 years playing elsewhere, as in 1890 they started playing at Cassio Road before heading to their current home in 1922. Watford's last home game there was a 1-0 win over Gillingham, and nowadays Cassio Road is still home to sport, but is now West Herts Sports Club and looks half decent. They've got a bar, a function room, everything. West Ham, the Bowling Ground. In 2016, West Ham played their final game at the Bowling Ground, or Upton Park if you like, and what an incredible night it was. Well, in legends back as the Hams beat Manchester United 3-2. But as West Ham moved to the Olympic Stadium, what happened to Upton Park? It was sold in July 2016 for £40 million, then months later it was used for a film Final Score, starring Pierce Brosnan and Dave Bautista. The stadium has since been demolished and is now of course a housing development, with Upton Gardens boasting 842 homes across 18 buildings. Wolves, Dudley Road. And finally we come to Wolves. Between 1881 and 1889 they played their football at Dudley Road, but the grounds only ever opened for those 8 years. With a record attendance of 10,000 people, Dudley Road closed its doors in 1889 and now it just looks to be housing, with the only reference to the ground being the street name, Wanderers Avenue. So that's what every Premier League club's old stadium is now, most of them are houses. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.